All right, everybody. Hey, welcome back to Daily Daryl Discussions. This is 2018. We did a handful of these last year, had a lot of good guests on, and we're starting off with a bang this year. Coach Mike Chumbler from WKCTCS, and we got a lot to talk about tonight and a couple of funny things off the bat. I would urge everybody out there, if you would please watch this, and I'll mention it again during the show. Please share this on your Facebook so we can reach more people. We got a lot of important things to talk about, the CAM Challenge and many other things. And so welcome to 2018. And without any further ado, I'd like to welcome in Coach Mike Chumbler from WKCTCS. Welcome, Coach.
Hey, thanks, Daryl. I appreciate you having me.
Well, I think we've been friends, for a couple 5 years or so now, and
Right.
did some high school basketball. I coached a little bit of high school. You've been mainly in the college ranks.
Right.
But, Coach, before we get started, I want to wish you and all yours a happy Valentine's Day.
Thank you.
Any thoughts in, being a coach, being an educator, and any thoughts today about the sad news coming out of South Florida? It's Broward County. It's where I went to law school. A lot of fond memories of that place. And we just went through the same thing a couple of weeks ago in Marshall County that was near and dear to our hearts. Do you got any thoughts today for our viewers on that?
Well, anything like that happens, Daryl, it's horrible. And I really don't know what the answer is. Before you and I went on the air, I was sitting here talking with someone, and there's been a lot of smarter people than me try to figure it out, and I just don't know what the answer is. But I mean, my heart and prayers go to everyone affected by that.
Yeah, it's just tragic, right here in the middle of the Olympics. It's been a fun Winter Olympics, watching all this snowboarding and kind of thinking we know what we're talking about with that now, and then this happens. I don't know. We need to figure something out. It's happened to us a couple of times, and then I don't know. It's just like you're always waiting for the next shoe to drop.
Well, and there's been so many already this year. I mean, that's what's surprising. There's been a lot we haven't heard about. I think when Marshall County happened, I heard it was like the 11th or 12th already this year. And, that's just crazy. I don't know what the answer is.
Yeah, and I think they said today that this would be like the 13th of this year.
Wow. That's horrible.
Yeah, so very sad news, especially coming here on Valentine's Day.
Right.
Coach, want to talk about a little bit now. We got the CAM Challenge coming up on February 24th. I'm going to let you take over and just tell us a little bit about it. What year, and just tell us what's going on with the CAM Challenge.
Well, CAM Challenge is a day. It's a day to celebrate Cam's life the way he would want to celebrate it. Through basketball. Most of our best memories were involved this game in one way or another, and we have a lot of his former teammates and opponents. They come in and they play against each other. But it's about so much more than that. Some of the recipients of his organs, Cam was an organ donor. And they come in and we honor them at halftime. And it's about so much more than just basketball. It's a day that our community can come together, celebrate Cam's life, celebrate each other, hold each other, and make memories together. And it's a fun day. I encourage everyone to come out.
Tell for some of the viewers just joined in tonight that might not know much about Cam, just talk a little bit about your son. One hell of a basketball player, no doubt, and a fine young man. Right.
And most people do know him through basketball. But he was even a better kid. He was a good young man. I can't remember, Carl Johnson, who I think a lot of. He's one of the assistant coaches, Shawnee. And Carl said one time, sometimes when somebody passes away, you have to exaggerate things about them. And that's hard to say, but, with Cam, he really didn't. Cam was just a great kid.
Very good team leader. And
he was.
I guess
that's go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, his final year of high school basketball would be McCracken County's first year as a unified county school.
Right. And, and no one thought they could do it, and back then the region was loaded. And the region's pretty good right now. But
Yes,
from
it is.
McCracken to get into to go to state, they had to play you guys at St. Mary's in the district championship. Then turn around and play Graves, Callaway, and Marshall. Now, that's the gauntlet. And I mean that's the gauntlet. There's no backing your way into that one. But
that was a tough run.
that's a tough run, and I'll never forget, that shot. Jason Armstrong made. They're playing Marshall. I think there's probably 10 seconds left in overtime, down one, I guess. And in that game, 1 or 2 points was like 10 points any other time. And Jason Armstrong made the play. He stole the ball, and they passed up to Cam, and Cam's out there, rocking it back and forth at half court. I'm yelling at Berlin, call timeout, set something up. And Cam just said, Berlin just said, go, make something happen. And I'm like, oh my God, what's going to happen? And the rest is kind of history. The biggest shot of his life that he'd made 1,000 times with nobody watching. And but it's just great memories.
Yeah, and that's what all great players do. They've done it a million times in practice before it actually happened. And so then it was on to the state tournament in Lexington at Rupp Arena.
Yes. And I remember sitting there with Tillman Burnett. Me and the Burnetts and all the parents, we were all from different backgrounds. And, for 11 years, we have been rooting against each other, and now we're sitting at the same restaurant pulling for each other's kids. But we all really came together that year. We learned a lot from those kids. And I told Tillman Burnett sitting there one day, if we wouldn't have consolidated, there's no doubt in my mind that Jared would average 20 at Reedland, and Cam would average 20 at Lone Oak. Bryce would average 20 at Heath, but we wouldn't all been sitting in Lexington. We'd have probably been sitting home. And that's just they taught all of us a big lesson.
And what was the quote that he left behind that he's known so well for?
I wish
your son.
I remember. It's on the shirt. I wish to leave behind a winning tradition where team success is more important than individual success. And that's how he was. I mean, that
sure,
was
and that was a time, an 18-year-old kid, and how we all, as communities and businesses and churches and every schools, everything in this region could learn from that statement. And I guess that's a little bit about what the Cam Challenge is about.
It is. It's not just, like I said, we're celebrating Cam's life, and we're celebrating the recipients of the organs. But we're kind of also celebrating each other. The one thing I can take faith, can take solace in is, Cam would drive you crazy. He'd say, I love you all the time. There was a point where I almost told him, son, I'm going to see you in 5 minutes. You don't have to say it, But then I would think, there's going to come a time when, I'm going to miss those I love you. And I didn't think it would be under these circumstances. But the day he had his accident before I left the house, we told each other we loved each other. And, I can take comfort in that because we did. It wasn't one of those things, where I wish I would have said that. We did. And that's what I tell people all the time, hug your loved ones. I'm a hugger. You know me, Daryl. I see you. I'm a hugger.
Oh, yeah. Same here.
I'm going to hug you. And I don't think you can show your loved ones enough, too much. Let them know how you feel about each other. And that's the way we should be as a community. I think we could cut down on some of the craziness if we did
that. That's very well said, Coach. I couldn't agree anymore. I'm a hugger, and I believe in that. And you hear people say all the time, I wished I would have told them one last time that I loved them.
Right.
And so I think that's great. Once again, it's February 24th, and I'll go back and put it in the comments later when we get off. But it's going to be at 2:00 at WKCTC, and then immediately afterwards, your squad's going to take the court against Elizabethtown.
Right. And Elizabethtown, their coach is one of the people I respect the most that I coach. I mean, we coach against each other, but you will see us hug each other. I mean, we're on the same mindset, and I think the world of Coach B. And his players, we all get along. We'll be trying to kill each other during the game, but we'll all hug afterwards and go from there.
Yeah. And well, because you're all, believe it or not, you're all in it together. And it amazed me in my years of coaching how close you would get with the other. Some coaches you'd be closer than others, but you all knew what that person, even if you weren't good friends with them, you knew what they were going through, and they knew what you were going through, and the late nights and the early mornings. And we'll get to that here in a little bit. But anyway, Cam Challenge, February 24th, 2 o'clock, WKCTC, and it's basically how you guys fund your team there at WKCTC. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah. All proceeds go to the WKCTC basketball program. It's with those shirts we sell. Everything we make goes to them.
Okay. And when that leads us into our next question, Roman numeral number 2 for me is, tell us about your team this year.
Well, we've had a rough year. I'm not going to lie. Coming in, it was going to be the most athletic team that I've ever coached, and they were athletic. But we've had trouble following through sometimes. They're fun to watch. I mean, we play fast, but sometimes we got to play a little defense in between. And there's times where we look like we're just on defense passing the time till we get the ball back. And but I mean, I will say this: we went up to Three Rivers, Monday night, I think, and we lost, but we only had 7 in uniform. 2 of my best players, they didn't play, and those kids competed. I mean, they got out there and they were some dogs. And if they play like that, if we can finish out the season like that, I'll be extremely proud of them.
Good. Speaking of that, how much longer do you have this season? It's February. It's getting there.
Right. We are almost done. We go to St. Louis Saturday. Then Thursday we go to West Memphis, Arkansas. We play Arkansas State Mid-South. Beautiful facility, and they're loaded this year. And then we'll finish off with Elizabethtown at home on the 24th.
Okay, so that'll be your final day.
Yeah. Oh, we're done. Yeah.
During the Cam Challenge, so there's going to be a huge day of basketball that day. So
right, and we'll have 8 to 10 of our guys that we're recruiting for next year. Some that we're definitely getting that will be here that day too. We host a lot of recruits that day.
Nice. That's everybody keep that on your calendar, and I'll put it in the comments later on. So how is recruiting? The next thing, I always say in Kentucky there's basketball season and then there's recruiting season. So
right.
How is and sometimes they overlap, but how's the recruiting looking for next year?
Well, ours is really overlapping. 2 weeks ago, we were in a different gym every night of the week. And from Care Road to Marion, Illinois, to Elizabethtown, Illinois, Livingston County, it's going really well. I'm very excited about some of the players we have coming in next year. We've got some very strong kids. We've got some bigger kids and some tough kids, very tough kids. I'm excited about next year.
Okay. And how many are you looking to sign? I mean, it's for those of you that don't know, in a junior college setting, the kids are only there for 2 years.
Right.
So it's not necessarily one and done, but it's 2 and done.
Right. And we're probably going to bring in 10 players.
Okay. And how many do you expect to return from this year's squad?
I've got 2, and that hurt me also. I had 2 that got hurt the very first game of the season, ruptured Achilles and a torn labrum. And they'll be back next year, and probably 3 more.
Okay. Yeah, I guess early season injuries are it's a part of life. It's a part of basketball. There's sickness and you look around the country right now, people, especially the NBA. Have you ever seen this many injuries in the NBA?
No, I haven't.
Star players out for the year.
Right. I know. It seems like somebody's going out every night.
Yeah, and so anyway, we could get into theories. But you talked about, last week being in a different gym every night. So that leads me to the next question is, tell us, for some of the viewers maybe that are not big basketball bennies like a lot of us, what is the typical day in the life of a college basketball coach?
Like I said, I don't think there is a typical day. You do it everything from trying to sell T-shirts to get advertisers to You got practice, of course. You got study hall a couple of days a week. You got to check on every player's grades. You got to make sure that they're performing in the classroom academically. Because if they're not going to play anyway.
Mm-hmm.
We've made that's one spot we've made significant improvements in over the last since I've been here, and I've had a lot of help with Justin Hill and Amy Elmore. They've really helped me stay on top of players' grades. And then, after we finish practice, we're usually headed to a gym to watch somebody play. And after you eat your dinner and at the concession stand, and then
That's right.
talk to kids, after the game that you might want to recruit. It's a late night almost every night. But I mean, there's no place I'd rather be. It's just in my blood.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's, for those of you who don't know, your dad was a coach.
Right.
Coached
Right.
at, I guess, Cairo and Tillman and Trigg County that I know for
Right.
sure of.
Yeah. Yeah. Century. He started at Century, and then he went to Cairo, and then he came to Tillman, and then he went to Trigg.
And I think that's funny because in my years in coaching, it's like you said, you're always eating your dinner that night at the gym you're at. So
Right.
it's I always called popcorn, the supper for a basketball coach. And I had my favorites, the popcorn
Oh,
at the Eagles Nest was better than the popcorn at somewhere else. And
hey, I can tell you who's got the best hot dogs, the best popcorn, who'll give you full tortilla chips and who'll give you partials. And,
yeah,
you just learn them after a while. My assistant coach, he loves popcorn. And, I like popcorn, but that's not going to be my meal. There's going to be a chicken sandwich in there somewhere.
yeah. And I coached with coaches who would plan their Christmas tournaments around hospitality rooms and what kind of food we'd have at different Christmas tournaments.
Right.
So that was
Well,
always
I understand that. Some are better than others. I've caught a lot of flack over the years, about scheduling over Thanksgiving or holidays or whatever. And it's just, it's just what we did. I mean, I
yeah,
remember my dad having to leave Christmas every year to go practice, get ready for the El Dorado tournament. And it's just, I don't know if we ever spent a Father's Day, with camp, a Father's Day, a Mother's Day, or a birthday not in some gym somewhere.
yeah,
And it just becomes the norm for us, to be honest.
yeah. Now, a couple years ago, I know you do a lot of individual instruction.
I do.
Is that is that mostly is that mostly in the off season or is it pretty much year round? And
No,
tell people how they can get in touch with you if they want to talk about individual lessons.
well, they can get a hold of me here on Facebook, or you can give them my phone number, or anyone can. I work with a lot of kids during the summer, sometimes between 27 and 30, and those
Wow.
kids, a lot of those end up, you look up and they come to a lot of ball games. But I love to see a kid improve. I mean, it's just
Hmm.
very, very satisfying. And right now, I'm working with a lot of girls, to be honest with you. I've got some
Hmm.
boys, but a whole lot of girls. And which,
Hmm.
for me, starting out was different, but it's really not that different. It's basketball, and
Hmm.
I still do a whole lot of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm the same way. I always joked around, that I wasn't a very good player. So I think I was a lot better at relating to a player that wasn't as good as I was the star players. And so I really
Right,
appreciate the kids that wanted, and I always, I was Johnny on the spot if somebody wanted to go shoot or work on ball handling or whatever, because I loved watching that average player, that role player. I always say, God bless the role player.
right,
And that's the one, that you love to see working, that maybe not blessed with as much natural skill as the star players.
right. And I think sometimes, as a coach, I know I do. I've learned each of the 3 years I've been here, and I've made a ton of mistakes. But one of the things I've learned, sometimes you have to sacrifice athleticism for hard work. And sometimes us as coaches, me in particular, you get caught up and you're like, oh my God, that kid can jump out of the gym, got a 7 foot wingspan, or whatever. And sometimes you just need that 6'3" kid that's going to be a dog and get on the floor and do what do what it takes. And there's a lot to be said for a tough kid, trust me.
Well, while we're on the subject, and I guess this doesn't just have to relate to basketball, but what would your advice be? I know you coached a lot of AAU ball, as
Right.
I did for a couple of years,
Right.
and man, that's a fun, different season. But if you were giving advice to a parent about, playing AAU ball, playing different sports, what would you say to those parents with kids that they wanted to help improve?
Uh, they need to check out the program. I mean, because honestly, I mean, there's good programs. I know some really good programs, and I know some programs that just want to make some money. I know some programs that are just about the show. I mean, there's good and bad, just like there is everything. Uh, do a little bit of homework on it. Um, I, I'm one of those guys. I like AAU. I mean, I think it serves a purpose. If you're going to play, you want to play against the best, and that's where it's going to be for the most part.
How long did you do AAU ball?
Oh, geez. I think we started when Cam was like in third grade all the way
Goodness.
through probably 8, 9 years, something like that. We finished 10th in the country one year. We had a really good team, but and that's where I remember when I was working with those St. Mary's kids with Greg
Hmm.
and them. We weren't overly athletic, and we had no size, but those kids they would just lay it out there on the court and give you everything you got. And I was blessed that Greg gave me that opportunity.
Yeah. That's the summer when I first got to know you because I was doing some stuff with the girls at that time and
Right.
Coach Smith, who's now at Highland Community College, they're third in the country,
Oh, wow.
undefeated. Um, yeah, we went to Cape Girardeau, Memphis, Bowling Green, a lot of those places. It was a lot of fun between our games watching y'all play because it was such an exciting style.
Right.
And of course, I never dreamed that one day I would coach a couple of those kids. And
No.
but you could definitely see them as opposed to other kids that didn't play AAU, how much better they were when they got in high school and especially in the crunch time games.
Right.
Those
But
players that they really stood out.
well, Greg said it about Cam one time. He said it best. He said it doesn't matter what you throw at him. He's seen it before 15 times. And he had, he had played so much, with AAU, with school ball. One year he played freshman JV and half a varsity game. And that was on top of a full 50 to 60, AAU game schedule. And
Hmm.
there's just a lot to be said for experience like that.
Yeah. And if you had it to do all over again, would you? I mean, you're always smarter once you've done something, but would you do it the similar? Would you do the same thing?
Yes. Oh yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's a must. Um,
Yeah. And his son Cam were really big, and he still is a big Duke fan. Coach, why in the world Duke?
well, I know, and I'm gonna get this Christian Leitner jersey out of my office if you want me to. I do have one in there.
Oh
Um,
gosh, I figured you did.
hey, I'm not lying. I do. Um, Cam was always he went to one of those fantasy camps like we were
Hmm.
talking about, and he came back ruined. I mean, he was Duke everything. And at the time, I was stationed at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina at one time, so I was a North Carolina fan. And you talking
Okay.
about, oh, we battled. Geez, he would drive you crazy. We couldn't watch the ball game in the same room. Another thing Cam was real good at was talking. And
Yeah.
it just got to a point when North Carolina had the class scandal. I ran out of reasons to dislike Duke, to be honest with you. So I jumped ship and went the Duke route. And one of my favorite memories is in 2015 when he and I got to watch Duke win the championship together. I mean, we were two morons high-fiving all over the living room and everything else. But when
Yeah.
Cam had his accident, a lot of people don't know this. After he passed away, I was sitting in my living room, and it was just a few days after he passed away. And my phone rang, and it said Durham, North Carolina on it. I'm like, who is trying to sell me something? And I picked up the phone, and it was Mike Krzyzewski. And
Wow.
he said, Coach, he asked for Mike Chumbler. And that's when I knew somebody wasn't trying to sell me anything because they always said Mike. But I should have recognized the voice, but you're just not expecting that man on the other end.
No, you're not expecting that one.
No. And he told me, somebody had sent him a picture of my son Cam, and he sat there and he talked, and, he was just as genuine, as compassionate as one could possibly be. And he talked for 15, maybe 20 minutes. Well, that kind of sold me right there. And then just this past December, me and a good friend of mine, Jason Helm, and his family, we went to Duke and watched the ball game, and I got to meet Coach Krzyzewski. And we got to talk to him again for about 10 minutes. And he's, I know people have their teams and they hate whoever they want to. And I understand that. But they were just such a class act. That, what they did for me and my family, I could never repay them.
That Coach, that's a great story. I knew bits and pieces of that story. I did not know the whole thing. And
right.
There's no doubt Coach K is a class act.
Right.
The way he brought USA basketball back, and him and not just him, but a number of people. He deserves, when he gets an advantage and stuff, and I know my Kentucky fans are going to hate me for this, but he gets a little bit of an advantage for being the national coach for so long. And I think he deserves everything he gets with that. And I've heard Coach Cal say the same thing.
Right. And it takes a special kind of coach to deal with all those egos, to get them to mesh. And,
wow.
Coach Krzyzewski is he's just a genuine, compassionate person. And it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. We'll go back to Duke every year and watch a game. Cameron Indoor is unbelievable. But that's the story behind my love for Duke.
Yeah, I'd like to get down there sometime. I know for everybody watching it, you've probably seen this, but I don't know if you know, next year's season, the opening game is November the 6th. It's also Election Day. It's a Tuesday night Champions Classic, and I think the first game of the college basketball season, if I'm not mistaken, they're kicking it off with UK and Duke from Indianapolis, I believe.
I believe it is. I believe it's at Lucas Oil. The Champions Classic. And it ought to be interesting, because I believe a lot of these guys from Kentucky will come back. A lot of guys from Duke are not going to come back. And then the class we have coming in with that group special. And it'll be a fun game.
Yeah, it will be. And I guess if one thing I say, being a Kentucky fan, I'm glad we're catching them early. And a minute ago when I gave the compliment to Coach K, I got a text that popped up on my computer screen from a Kentucky fan saying, "You're crazy." So, but it is. Well, Coach, I was going to ask you about, what do you think about one and dones in college? That just seems to be, I think people talk too much about it. I think, it's hard to tell a kid, in my opinion, if you can make yourself and your family a millionaire, not to go to the pros after 1 year of college. On the flip side, I think the reason you got so much parity now is because these kids that aren't going to Kentucky and Duke and a few others, Kansas, they're going to other schools and staying.
Right.
And Virginia comes to mind, and some schools, Michigan State, some schools like that. So what do you think about the one and done and all this talk?
If you're a coach, I mean, who's going to tell Zion Williamson you don't want them? You want the best players that are available. Sure. With college basketball, I don't like the way it is. They don't tell a child that's great on the violin or whatever, hey, you can't go make a living. They let them go make a living, and a very good living.
Sure.
I really think the rule, what I would like to see it is either they can go straight out of high school, or if you go to college, you got to stay 3 years. And Kentucky caught a lot of flack about it right off the bat, but now everyone's doing it. And it's just, Kentucky just got the head start. And, I'm not a Kentucky fan, but I don't hate Kentucky. I mean, Duke's just my team. Calipari is a great recruiter. And that's where they got the head start because he was such a good recruiter. He got all those one and done. And now some of the other coaches like Coach K and them, they're like, well, let's try this route too. And I would just like to see it, if they're going to go, stay 3 years, but give them a chance to go right out of high school also.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's just it's like we said, you're seeing this parity this year. I mean, there's 20 teams that could win it all. I mean, to me it's unlike any year before. It's like if you get in the tournament, you have a chance to make a run this time.
It's going to depend on who can squeeze by for 6 games.
Yeah.
Because like you said, there's several teams that have a chance.
Yeah. I haven't given up on my Cats. I mean, you only have to win 6. You don't have to beat everybody. You just have to beat the 6 people that you play. So you're going to run into it. Well, Coach, I want to be respectful of your time. I know you got a Duke game to finish up watching. I can tell you.
Only a UK fan would schedule this during the Duke game.
I promise I didn't do it on purpose. The ACC is hard to plan around. I mean, they have a game on a Sunday night or a Monday night or a Friday. In the SEC, we're not all that smart. We just have to put them on Tuesdays and Saturdays and occasional Wednesday.
The ACC.
But yeah, I think you're in pretty good shape right now, up 17. But we can get you back and let you watch the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's good. I appreciate it. And I appreciate the plug for Cam's Challenge and that. And,
absolutely.
Love to see you out there. Love to see you.
Definitely going to try to get there.
It's definitely a great day. It's about more than just basketball.
Good. Want to see it. Want to watch your team do the dribble drive. And, hey, I'm going to do my very best to be there. I did not know the exact dates before tonight. So if I can fit it in. Hey, there's nothing I'd rather do in February in Kentucky than go watch basketball. So
I hear you.
Well, Coach, good luck with the rest of the season. And everybody, once again, I'm gonna put it in the notes at the end of the live stream. It's February 24th at 2:00, and Coach Chumbler's WKCTC Stars will play immediately after that.
I do appreciate it, Daryl. Thank you, brother.
Okay, Coach. Thanks for spending some time with us tonight, and we will talk to you real soon.
All right. Thank you. Take care.
Okay. Thank you, buddy.